I'm going to show you all a video to introduce the characters that are in the story that my author created.
Boys, Christopher Robin has toy animals to play with, and they all live together in a wonderful world of make-believe. But his best friend is a bear called Winnie-the-Pooh, or Pooh for short. Now, Pooh had some very unusual adventures, and they all happened right here in the 100-acre wood. Deep in the 100-acre wood, where Christopher Robin plays, you'll find the enchanted neighborhood of Christopher's childhood days. A donkey named Eeyore is his friend, and Kango and Little Roo. There's Rabbit and Piglet, and there's Owl, but most of all, Winnie-the-Pooh. Winnie-the-Pooh, Winnie-the-Pooh, chubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. He's Winnie-the-Pooh, Winnie-the-Pooh, willy-nilly silly old bear. Winnie-the-Pooh, Winnie-the-Pooh, chubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. He's Winnie-the-Pooh, Winnie-the-Pooh, willy-nilly silly old bear.
Alright, so my author is AAMilne. His name is little known, but his characters are very well known. And I would like to welcome you all to the 100-acre wood. First, I would start with telling you guys a little bit about the author. His name is Alexander Alan Milne, and he was born in London, England, on January 18th of 1882. He attended private school in England that was owned by his father, and one of his teachers was actually the famous author H.G. Wells. He went to college and he studied mathematics because that is what he excelled at most, but he did not like very much. So after he graduated from college, he began to write. And when he first began to write, he wrote books and plays and screenwrites of adult subjects. The only real children's literature he ever wrote was Winnie-the-Pooh. And after he wrote a little bit for a newspaper, he was drafted into the military as a signaling officer, even though he himself hated conflict and he was actually very against the war. So after he came out of the military, he got married and he had a son in 1920 named Christopher Robin. Then he and his family moved to rural England and lived on a cottage in the middle of the woods. Milne wrote many plays and poems and adult novels before his most famous works of Winnie-the-Pooh, and the birth of his son led to the beginning of his adventure in children's literature. He published a collection of poems titled A Gallery of Children, which laid the foundation for the Winnie-the-Pooh series to begin. In this book, there was a poem about his son and how he said his nighttime prayers, and he included a bear, which later became Winnie-the-Pooh. Milne came to loathe these books and poems as he got more fame over them than he ever wanted. It is said that also the illustrator Ernest H. Shepard and his son Christopher Robin also hated Pooh Bear. They say it ruined their lives. The beginning of Pooh Bear. So Winnie-the-Pooh was not the name of his son's beloved stuffed bear. His name was Edward Bear, as mentioned in the beginning of A Gallery of Children. This name was also brought up in the beginning of Winnie-the-Pooh, which is the first book in the actual Winnie-the-Pooh series. This name, Winnie-the-Pooh, was derived from a bear at the time that was at the London Zoo named Winnie that his son loved. And the Pooh part came because his son's favorite swan that lived in their lake was named Pooh. And he would yell Pooh repeatedly at this swan when he wasn't there, and he would get really upset. So Milne took Winnie and Pooh and made Winnie-the-Pooh. So then these stories came out of not only the Pooh Bear stuffed animal, but also these other stuffed animals that you see up on the screen. These are actually the originals, and they are kept in a library in New York. So these other stuffed animals, along with Edward Bear, which was the name of the bear that his son had, would go on adventures through the woods of their backyard. This led to the creation of the 100-Acre Wood and the stories we all know and love. Tigger the Tiger was actually not introduced until the last books called The House at Pooh Corner. He was not introduced until halfway through that book, so he was not present for a lot of it, even though he is one of the more known characters that we can relate to. There are many theories as to why Milne chose so many different personalities to be represented in the book. As we know, Eeyore is sad, and Tigger is all happy, and Pooh Bear is not the brightest, and Kanga is kind of like a mom. But I believe this is because Milne is trying to depict the many personalities that are common to encounter in a child's lifetime. So he is exposing them to these different things that they are going to see during their life. I know I could immediately name someone who reminds me of Eeyore or Piglet, and I know most people have a loving rabbit in their life looking after them. This is a picture of the original books and the original drawings. There were only 4 books in total that Milne wrote that included Pooh Bear. This began with When We Were Very Young, then Winnie-the-Pooh, which is the first book fully about Pooh Bear and his friends, and then there was Now We Are 6, and it all ended with The House on Pooh Corner. The first person to bring Pooh Bear off the page into the version we know now was Stefan Schlesinger in 1930. He was the person to add the little red shirt that we saw on Pooh Bear in the animation in the beginning. Before that, Pooh Bear was naked. He put him not only in animated shorts, but he also put him on jigsaw puzzles, board games, radio shows, and even a puppet show. All of these inspired Walt Disney and his children, so he ended up buying the rights to Winnie-the-Pooh, and he helped create a Winnie-the-Pooh featured special, but was not actually able to watch it as it did not air until after Disney died. So now I'm going to share this quote with you guys. It says, "Rivers know this, there is no hurry. We shall get there someday." This is from Winnie-the-Pooh. And it was written by Milne in The House at Pooh Corner. It is one of the many life lessons Milne included in his stories and poetry. It is telling children not to worry about hurrying, because no matter how fast you go, you will reach your destination one day. It is better to take your time and enjoy the journey along the way. Pooh Bear has given many quotes of wisdom over the years, and I believe it has made a major impact not only in children's literature, but also on children themselves. It is really hard to find a child, an adult, or anyone in between that has never heard of Winnie-the-Pooh or been impacted by his stories. Winnie-the-Pooh is often included in classroom lessons, and he is often brought up when talking in inspirational ways, because even though Winnie-the-Pooh may not have been the brightest bear out there, he was definitely full of wisdom that he gave to Christopher Robin. And I'm now going to read a passage from The House at Pooh Corner. This is from the last story in the book. They are saying goodbye to Christopher Robin because they all know he's going to be leaving very soon. It is called In Which Christopher Robin and Pooh Come to an Enchanted Place, and we leave them there. "Well," said Pooh, "what I like best," and then he stopped and think. Because although eating honey was a very good thing to do, there's just a moment before you begin to eat it which was better than when you were. But he didn't know what it was called. And then he thought that being with Christopher Robin was a good thing to do, and having Piglet near him was a very friendly thing to have. And so, when he thought it all out, he said, "What I like best in the whole world is me and Piglet going to see you, and you saying, 'What about a little something?' and me saying, 'Well, I shouldn't mind a little something, should you, Piglet?' And it being a hummy sort of day outside, and birds singing." "I like that too," said Christopher Robin. "But what I like doing best is nothing." "How do you do nothing?" asked Pooh, after he had wondered for a long time. "Well, it's when people call out at you just as you are going off to do it. 'What are you going to do, Christopher Robin?' And you say, 'Oh, nothing,' and then you go and do it." "Oh, I see," said Pooh. "This is a nothing sort of thing that we're doing now." "Oh, I see," said Pooh again. "It means just going along, listening to all the things you can hear, and not bothering." I think this is a very important part of the Winnie-the-Pooh series written by AAMilne, because it is the culmination of all the stories. and Pooh Bear and Christopher Robin realizing that they love just doing nothing together. And it's showing kids not to be afraid to live in the moment and to be with your friends, and you don't always have to be doing something to be really enjoying yourself. These are my works cited, and does anyone have any questions? No? All right.